It is a well-known saying that nothing comes from nothing. If we now put this into a galactic context, then an exciting question arises. How the universe could literally come into existence out of nothing. For our earthly life, something can be formidably if there are components to create it. But where did the material come from that made it possible out of the birth of the cosmos? Together with you, we would like to today take a closer look at this deep topic. What do experts say about this central issue? And is it even possible to answer it with our current knowledge? He called with new revolutionary discoveries and Viracum secrets of the universe. Then don't forget to subscribe to Simple Space and click on the bell to receive regular updates in these exciting topics. Give us a thumbs up that we can continue to involve you in the content of our videos. And as beginning, whether it's a big bang, a big crunch, or a big freezing, even if theories differ from each other, do they all end in the same scenario? And of the universe. If we follow this hypothesis, then one day the last star burn up in space. After that, the universe will turn into a hopeless emptiness. In that dark age, giant black holes will swallow all remaining matter before finally evaporate in the final act of destruction. Space will expand until even the faintest light from evaporating gravitational monsters will need to scatter to interact. And the activity of space will stop completely, although many researchers consider such a process as the finale end of our galactic home. However, some experts recognize something perfect in it. Something else, namely the beginning of a new universe. In fact, some researchers are convinced that it is a dark, cold, and empty universe was the basis Big Bang. However, before we delve into this exciting thesis, we should first consider another, no less fascinating question of how the first physical matter. If we want to explain the emergence of a stable matter in atoms or molecules, it becomes clear that nothing like the non-existence of the shaft, not during the Big Bang, not in subsequent millennia. What do we know for sure, then? That the first atoms formed from simpler particles as soon as the external condition cooled down enough. We also know how atoms later fused into stars, having formed heavy elements. But at the level of knowledge, it does not give any information about how something can be born from nothing. So let's turn the cosmic wheel of time even further back. The protons of a neutron, which together form the nucleus of atoms, considered to be the first long-lived particles of matter in galactic history. It is generally accepted that they were created immediately after the Big explosion. However, before that, no matter in the classical sense didn't exist. Fortunately, physics allows us to trace the chronology events a little further, namely to those processes that had stable matter occurred. Planck era. Within the framework of physics, this epoch is called the Big Unified Theories. In detail, this theory is based on the fact that during the Great Explosion, 3 of the 4 known basic physical forces, namely the strong, weak, and electromagnetic interaction, existed as one unified force. If we go even deeper into the realm of the speculative of physics, we will see that the physical world consisted of a vein-shaped solyank of short-lived elementary particles. Among them were debris, the building blocks of protons and electrons. The relationship between matter and antimatter was balanced. Each type of matter particle's chalk is almost a mirror analogy and take off the matter. If these 2 particles, which are different from each other in only one aspect, whenever they met, they destroyed each other. But how are these particles formed? In this regard, quantum field theory says that Tevin vacuum, considered a prime example of the empty space size, in fact, seething with physical activity. This occurs in the form of energy fluctuations and can cause particles to appear only to disappear again. Therefore, the vacuum of spacetime is also characterized by similar processes. Here, too, the particles seem to emerge from the emptiness. If we stretch our central question further, then the technique would another obstacle. How then did spacetime come about? In this regard, Planck impressively demonstrates us that in the end we run into insurmountable barriers in our physical theories. In detail, a short pocket Planck occurs immediately after the Big Bang. At this moment, space and time themselves are old parts for quantum fluctuations. The problem is that all the side of the concept of Planck we need a complete theory of quantum gravity that combines quantum physics with relativity. M-theory and looping quantum gravity are considered promising candidates in this regard. Here, the usual space and time is considered to be emergent. Therefore, what we perceive as space and time is actually the result of quantum processes taking place on the microscopic level. Since in the era of the Planck, our conventional understanding space and time is no longer valid. Our classical concept of cause and effect also reaches its limits. However, all theories devoted to this section describe something physical that was happening at that time, a kind of quantum precursor of space and time. Even if our understanding of causality is an applicable Planck era, it is theoretically possible to comprehend one of leaving that era with the help of another. However, our present theory is unable to cope with this difficult undertaking. Until the relevant doctrines are fully developed, we cannot make any generally reasonable statements about the central processes of the formation of the cosmos. At present, it remains to state that the physicists, not a single confirmed case is known when something formed from nothing. Creator, multiverse, or cycles? Since it is currently impossible for us to decipher quantum state of the universe at the beginning of the Skira Plancks, all theories in this regard remain highly speculative. Some try to explain this central Ridleyan lineage of the divine creator. Other Minel's geosic explanation consider existence multiverse as the most promising approach. According to him, the cosmos will not be an all-encompassing construction, but only a tiny link in an endless chain of other universes. The corresponding theses are based on the fact that the universe is subject to a constant cycle of destruction and rebirth, an exciting approach that has a prominent proponent in the Lycée laureate of the Nobel Prize Roger Penrose. The British physicist once brought into view theory of conformal cyclic cosmology. If you follow the expert's explanation, then between the Big explosion and the distant end of the universe, there are amazing mathematical parallels. In fact, the two states are even identical when they are pushed to their limits. This circumstance led Penrose to the hypothesis which seems extremely paradoxical. It was the complete absence of matter that gave rise to all matter. In space, from this point of view, the Big Bang, therefore, occurred from something that is closest to sinister nothing. Namely, from what remains when the matter of the universe was ungelled by black holes, which subsequently squabble on photons. But how is it possible that a cold, empty universe fits shot, dense universe from a mathematical point of view? The answer to this question lies in a complex mathematical procedure called conformal scaling. This is a geometric transformation that changes size of the object, but leaves its shape intact. Indeed, in this way it is possible to scale the state of the universe so that the forms of their space matched. In other words, a hot, dense state exists due to the cold, empty state. Thus, beyond the end of expanding space and eventually a new Big Bang follows. Search is nothing. Suppose that the controversial Penrose theory one day will be confirmed. Even in this case, we still will not have an answer. The question is how something can come from nothing. Where does physical reality come from? How is the cyclic system of the universe formed? Why does anything even exist? Not nothing. As you can see, it doesn't take that long to philosophical questions crept into this exciting topic. However, for our today's video, we would like to leave the realm of physics. So what does science have to say about the possible backstory cycles? One approach says that the physical explanation for this can be at all. Or is it about an endless chain of repeating cycles, where the initial quantum state of each space determines the property of the next universe? Moreover, one can imagine that there is only a own cycle. Moreover, the beginning of the cosmic cycle is determined by the proper tie set. Who knows? Will we ever get an answer to the fundamental questions of the universe? But isn't it just a huge uncertainty, making topics so exciting? Now we want to know your opinion. What do you think? Different views on the origin and fate of the universe? Let us know your suggestions in the comments. Thank you for watching.